Okay, cool. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep,
Yes.
loud and clear.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so yeah, first meeting of the year. Welcome everyone. So in terms of DevSync, I'm working on the recurrent transfers. Some stuff came up when Gandalf asked for some documentation, so that's that's something we'll have to talk about later on. I'm also battling a bit with the new half implementation of HiveMind and trying to get all of my previous merge requests to be compatible. But right now my focus is more on supporting some Hive stuff. Oh, also I guess the RC delegation update has been done as well. But yeah, mostly documentation and recurrent transfers for now.
I had a quick question. What kind of problems would you have had with the Hive mind merging? Because I would have, I mean, most of the half Hive mind stuff should have only changed Hive sync, right? It shouldn't have affected the queries. And I assume your changes are mostly just impacting the queries side, the sync server side.
Well, the queries have been updated a bit. Some of the basically, I think that it may not be linked to half, but some of the
Oh, you just mean some of the queries have been optimized, and some of the optimized queries have.
no, it's more about the naming of the tables and the way the tables are organized. Now they are in a different namespace.
Oh, because they're in Hive dot now,
Yeah,
or not
exactly.
Hive,
So
but
there is a
Hive mind.
bunch of stuff, and the issue that since I wrote a bunch of heavy PGSQL implementation, I kind of have to go through all of that and update a bunch of the links there.
Okay. Links? You mean the
I mean, basically all of
name?
the links as in table naming schemes and stuff like this.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
And also then updating the Python code because the way it's named is a tad different. But
Oh,
I
so you wrote Python code? It wasn't mostly SQL?
it's SQL. It's almost exclusively SQL, but then there is also some Python code on top of it to call it.
Okay.
And in order to do that, there is a bunch of there is basically when that changed, there was a new constant that was added on top of everything, and you need to basically add it to your queries so that the proper table name is reflected.
Okay. Actually, that brings up a question for I'm thinking for Bartek maybe. So Bartek, right now I guess we're still having to use Python server for half Highmon, right?
Yes, we are using Python server there, but just for handling RPC calls.
Sorry, say that one more time.
There is used Python server implementation, but only for implementing and handling RPC calls.
Okay, for RPC calls. Yeah, right, right.
Yes,
Okay.
sync part is of course also based on Python because processing of several operations in HiveMind requires
Yeah, yeah, no,
some
absolutely.
sophisticated algorithm to be
I was
used.
thinking about on the server side, so I mean on the server side, I was wondering if we could ever, I don't know how much, I guess it's quite a bit of work, but if we could consider it possibly moving to the at some point to the Postgres.
Ah, yes, yes, of course, and that was one of my far plans, let's say,
Okay. Okay.
because fortunately, most of implementations of API calls is just Python delegation to
To the SQL.
SQL
Awesome.
procedure, which implements most of the functionality. So yes, that's my plan, and because we have very good experience with great performance of PostgreSQL already used in Hafach, I think we can seriously consider moving to that part.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I guess how you said you were done, right? So as
Yeah.
far as what you okay, so let's see what stuff we've been working on. I guess one of the more interesting things we've been doing recently, a lot of stuff we've been doing recently is half based. I guess not surprising. One of the things we've been experimenting with, and I think is, I would say at this point, we can almost say it's a successful experiment, is measuring, taking the operations table, which is by far the largest table in half. It basically stores all the blockchain operations that have been done by people, and changing its storage method from JSON into like a binary format, and we dropped the size of half from like 3.8 gigs by about 500 over 500 gigabytes in size by doing that, because that is by far, as I said, the biggest table. So it we've seen it also speeds up half sync time as well, half replay, so that's also nice. I forget how much speed up we had, but I'll post a link. Let me get the link, which has the data on it in here. And it's the second page of that link. Ignore the first page. The second page, the one that says Hive 6, has the data. And I'm just going to pull it up here so I can check it again. It's the wrong one. Oh, no, it's the right one. So, yeah, we had, I guess, not a huge speed up in time. We saved about 2,000 seconds of time, but in the replay. But more important is the saving of space is quite significant. Like I said, over 500 gigabytes. So that'll be nice. We still need to do a little bit more performance testing. So we've tested the performance of sync, but we got to test the performance of the API calls, basically like replaying something on it, making sure like something like Haffa is still working at the same speed. I think it's probably gonna be fine, but it's something we need to check first. So other than that, we've also been doing some more stuff with Docker. So one of the things Bartek's been working on is creating a Docker Compose image, which will allow you to launch like a bunch of Docker things at once. So this would be for deployment for like, if you want to deploy a bunch of half apps at once. This is like an example of how to deploy half plus some half apps that you might want to use commonly with your half server. As an example, PG Hero, that's a tool that you can use to sort of profile your half server to see how long queries are taking and things like that. And you can just measure performance of your server when it's under load from, if it's a production server, you can see how it's behaving under loading conditions. And same way, there's another PG admin. That's another popular Postgres tool that's useful for like database administration of your half server. So basically, you just launch this one command, and it would launch not only set up half, but it also set up these auxiliary tools and potentially half and other half apps that you might want to have commonly run. So this is a deployment thing really, but very useful one, I think. Along another thing we're doing with Docker, we've created a Docker image for developers, and specifically mostly for Hive D and Half developers. So I think this could be quite nice for anybody who wants to get into Hive D and Half development. They could just deploy this Docker, and then they have everything they need to start, I guess, doing development with. And so this is going to include CI tools as well for running CI inside your development environment, and we're also putting in a few graphical tools that can be useful to you inside the Docker, and you can even connect to it through like something like Visual Studio Code, which is the way I think Bartek said he was connecting to it. But this will sort of standardize our development environment more and lead less time for new developers to on board, I guess. Other things, we also did some cleanup to the CI to ease deployment of Python and Python-related tests. So nothing major there. And we're also doing some work to still working on standardizing CI so that we can reuse Docker images across half applications. Has a couple benefits, but mainly I think this will allow you to run your tests faster. And also, as part of that process, we're standardizing some templates for CI. So that if you want to make your own half app, you'll be able to grab these standardized templates and have a CI set up for your half app a lot easier, because we obviously want everybody who creates a half app and makes it a public one to have CI tests associated with it. Let's see what else. We have some new Haffa benchmarks on Hive, on GitLab, and I'll post a link to that. So this is sort of an example of, I guess, of what we'd like to see eventually from half apps in terms of how they show benchmarking. And we're continuing to work on the Block Explorer. Related to the Block Explorer, we did add some new data to half itself. And Bartek, you were supposed to send me a link to that, but I don't think you have yet, which is so now in half, we're storing the dynamic global property object data into the Hive blocks table. And this is very new. It's not yet merged into, is it merged into develop yet? I'm not sure it is. Bartek, do you remember?
No, it wasn't much yet. I will post the link again soon.
Okay, sounds good. And so we did that because we wanted to get the data. Specifically, we needed it for the data to do Hive to Vest, but conversions between Hives and Vests for the Block Explorer without having to query Hive D over time. So, for instance, if we're going to know the Hive to Vest conversion back at block 1000, right now that's a major pain. You can't really ask Hive D because it doesn't keep track of it. So you basically had to store it at each block to be able to do those kind of conversions. So with this new data, this new dynamic global property data being stored into the half database, you can easily calculate that you can do that Hive to Vest ratio calculation very easily now. Like I said, is needed by the Block Explorer, but I can see other apps as well are likely to need it. And there's other data in there, and I would strongly encourage anyone who's interested, who's developer, who wants to have some kind of state data, take a look at that link that Bartek just sent as to what we're collecting now. And it's not everything that's in the dynamic global properties object right now. So one of the things we'd like to know is if there's any other data you would be interested in from the dynamic global properties object that we should add to the half blocks table. Let's see, anything else? I guess just in passing, some of the benchmarks we did for half HiveMind, we found that it replays in about 3 days versus 5 days for the old HiveMind. So that was nice to see. So basically syncing of new half HiveMind is faster. And along the same lines, I guess I'll reiterate that we are slowly deprecating old HiveMind now. So most of the future work is just only going on for half HiveMind. So keep that in mind. I mean, if we need to backpatch something, we will, but it's not really high on our priority list anymore. Another thing that's going on is I talked briefly with Gandalf today about setting up a public mirror net for 1.20.7.3, the new Hive D that's been released. And we'll probably need to do we'd also like to do some work there on the mirror net to ease deployment so that we don't have to do as much work each time we set up a new mirror net. But I don't know. Gandalf, do you think you're going to want to set up a mirror net before that, or do we just wait until we get the new deployment stuff? I'm not sure there's any. I guess that's an open question. Is anybody dying for a new mirror net with the 1.27.3 right now, or can we wait a little bit and get these deployment aids to help Gandalf do it easier? Anyways, that's about it. What's that? I'm sorry.
Not really on my side in terms of waiting for the deployment.
Okay, sounds good. Then I guess that's the main things we've been working on. There's some other stuff, but that's a quick overview. I guess Imwatsi, do you want to cover what you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I took a bit of a break during the holidays, but before that, I finished up some leftover stuff on the Hive Dex API. That's the API for the internal market. Crimson recently got in touch about integration with CoinGecko. We spoke a bit about that, and I thought I have one endpoint left, which is the historical trades endpoint. And then I'm also working on the delegations API. Let's see, what else is there? Oh, a bit of core. I'm getting ready to release a public beta of our social media app. That's also built on Hive. Hopefully, maybe in a month, we'll be able to release that.
So what is it? Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm sorry?
What is the thing you're releasing in a month, maybe in a month?
Oh, the social media app.
A social media dApp. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay. Brian, did you want to say any words?
No, I'm okay. Not much for core. I'm working on my stuff, but I'm just looking at the recurrent transfers and I'm going to try and build the interface for those that will be ready for when multiple recurrent transfers can be done.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because I think that's definitely in the plans at this point. So,
Speaking of which, I just released like 2 hours ago an in-depth documentation on recurrent transfers. If you want to check it out on my Hive account. I'm going to eventually migrate it to on Dev Portal so that it's more centrally located.
yeah, that's definitely going to be useful. Do you have direct
Yeah,
access to that, or does that you just?
Sorry?
Do you have direct access to that to update that repo?
I don't actually know. I've never tried to contribute to it, so I'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, here's the link should you want to check it out.
Okay, that's good. Okay, anybody else have anything before we go into the recurrent transfers discussion? I'm guessing that's a no. Okay.
So yeah, as this basically stemmed from the documentation request and from the me making updates to recurrent transfers. One person asked so that you could set a start date, basically, because some context. Basically, right now, when you create a recurrent transfer, the initial transfers executes immediately.
Okay.
And so basically, that person made the argument that if you are subscribing to something, you may not want for it to execute right now, but maybe you want it to execute like 1st of February and not like right now,
Right.
which is like the 8th. So yeah, I
And
see
I
the
guess
point.
yeah, I guess that gives us also a way to program at the blockchain level, do a future transfer, even if you just wanted to do one.
Well, yes and no. I guess yeah. I mean, right now, recurrent transfer does not allow you to transfer to do a recurrent transfer with only once, but I guess we can all.
Okay.
Well, because it makes sense. Because right now, if you want to make a recurrent transfer,
Yeah.
it's just more states for nothing. So literally,
Okay.
the assets say just do a normal transfer. But yeah, I guess we could. That's also a use case that we could add on top of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys because that's more state and more like per block checks, let's say. And I know we are quite, we are never happy to do that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to. I'd be down to implement it because I do see the use case and might as well do it now before as I'm adding a new extension to the app instead of later when we do yet another extension. But I'm kind of afraid of the consequences.
Yeah, didn't we have like? I mean, wasn't there the whole thing of like scheduled actions or something like that?
Oh yes.
Would it fit under something like that?
Yeah, we'd never.
I know we
looked into
didn't use it, but I know it was there and we considered using it. I just wondered if this doesn't fit under any of that. But
Well, it's the issue is the whole scheduled action thing is like it's basically a very big overhaul of, and I don't think because it's from the Steemit era, and I don't know
yeah, I
if
know.
it's
I know.
if it's worth digging and how much is still like compatible with what we built. But I guess the start date wouldn't be too hard to implement because I could just set the trigger dates to the future, and the recurrent transfer would just like nothing would change for the recurrent transfer. It just would be executed in the future, and the current processes would be the same. So yeah, there would be no. Now that I'm thinking about it, there would be no performance impact.
Yeah, I don't think it's a. I don't. It doesn't sound to me like it at first glance.
So yeah, I think I guess we'll schedule it to be added to the next update then.
Okay, I guess a related issue to all this is when we're going to do the next hard fork.
Ah.
So I mean, we could do it. I mean, it sounds like right now. I think if we really want to get this out in a timely manner, then we can do a relatively soon hard fork in say 3 months. I guess the question is do we think that makes sense? And I don't really know. I think we'll probably the discussion won't end here. We'll probably want to discuss it in the Hive, in more other channels too, at least in the Mattermost channel, and just see what we think. Because I mean, I don't have any problem doing it from our side. I mean, I don't think the work is too bad, and I don't think it's too much work on the witnesses. The big concern, I guess, would be if it's too soon for exchanges, and I don't really have a good feel for that.
What? So apart from recurrent transfers, what other features do you guys have in mind for the hard
I
fork?
don't think there'd be much. I mean, I think it would be, just performance mainly performance improvements. So we do have 1.27.3 out, and we got all those changes, right? And those probably aren't necessarily deployed. A lot of exchanges haven't probably deployed them. So we basically can make those changes more official.
Yeah, for sure.
And we might have a few more performance improvements along the way, I'd imagine. But I'm not thinking a lot of true hard fork changes. I don't know. Can you think of any hard fork changes, Bartek, that we'd want to slip into a release in 3 months?
I planned also to make some changes in decline voting rights operation because it missed proposal votes, and they are still possible to be voted even account has declined voting rights. So that's the only change. And second one was planned to recurrent transfer and nothing more.
Yeah. So I think we could easily fit that in a 3-month schedule.
Yeah, definitely.
So just if it makes sense to do.
I would like that. I will work then towards getting a front end that does what I need to do and makes recurrent. I'm going to sort of focus on doing a front end, which I need to learn how to do. So that'll be my work.
Okay. Let's see. I guess that's. Is there anything more on the recurrent transfers, Hawa?
No, that's pretty much all I had for today, really. So, yeah, if you guys have anything else, feel free.
Not much really. I mean, I think I've talked about the stuff we're doing.
Related to recurrent transfers, that was the Bartek's idea to make a unified interface for getting transfers, both regular transfers and recurrent transfers, in the same way, so Exchange can just get those all the transfers incoming for their account using account history. That would simplify and such complex documentation specifying what's the difference between regular transfers and recurrent transfers won't be needed.
Yeah, one API would be great.
Agree with I'd like to know. I'm looking at Howard's post now. If you could update that sooner rather than later with what you think it will change with recurrent transfers, and I can sort of work towards that. So if there's an ID field that's going to go in there, it'd be good to see that sooner rather than later.
Well,
that makes sense.
Explaining a simple explanation is that currently when you're Exchange, you're tracking your own account, say Exchange 123, and they need to check to support recurrent transfers. They need to check all the transfers using regular way, like show me last 100 transfers for that account, and also need to check recurrent transfers in a completely different way. So the idea is to have it in the same unified way as a incoming transfer, whether it's $10 from regular transfer or recurrent transfer, of course, HPD.
Yeah, we could work on an API to add that. I really don't think it would be that hard.
Well, I don't think he's talking about a new API. I think he's just talking about changing the data that's displayed by the account history plugin.
Exactly. In my opinion, it will be sufficient to add some option for operation aliases in account history, and actually that's all.
So then the regular transfers would also produce a virtual operation? Oh, no, because you
No,
own
then
keys. Yeah.
then account history will record for recurrent transfer, like also its virtual operations, just incoming transfer record, some artificial operation which will be next possible to track by exchanges in unified way for all kinds of transfers.
Yeah, that sounds doable.
Of course, it's final decision of exchange if they would like to use that or not. That's only some option.
Yeah, but it's best if we can at least offer a simplified way.
Yeah, and honestly, we'd probably make it the default. So I think it'd be the default form
Yes,
of the
yes,
account
yes.
history plugin.
That
I mean,
way,
if I
there will be no confusion. So every exchange will now start to support recurrent transfers, even
Yes,
though.
Yeah,
and they
by
don't have to
default.
do anything to do it. It just will happen.
from my point of view, running a mini tiny exchange, that would be good. Just to get, when I ask for, when I watch for transfers, I'd like to see all transfers, not just ones that came in two different ways.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I'll draft a issue with a Hive improvement proposal then.
What I said before, I think was lost. It's slightly different, which is I just want to know how being able to do multiple transfers to one will where will ID fields appear. Either you and I can talk about that, and I'll write something, or you could add something to this post that you've just put up.
I'll probably write something as
Yeah,
an issue form because I don't want to confuse
that would be great.
people. But yeah, it's basically going to be an extension. So it works similar to the comment option operation, if you've ever played with it, where you basically
Okay.
submit two things at once. But we can talk offline of that.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I guess we're pretty much done. I guess the only thing I do want to encourage everybody to do is take a look at that link I sent earlier, the GitLab one, which has that, it's merge request 2113. That's the one that discusses, or actually Bartek posted it, but that's the one that discusses the dynamic global properties object data that we're putting in Half. And let us know if there's any other data you think is important to include in Half from the dynamic global properties object.
Okay.
Where did you post that? I'm just looking for it now.
It's here. It's in this channel.
Oh, in this channel.
On the chats,
Okay.
you'll see a bunch of post links.
Okay.
And it's the one from Bartek is the one I'm talking about. But the other one's
Okay.
probably interesting too to look at if you're curious. Okay, I guess that's it then for this meeting.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or anything?
Nothing for me.
Okay. See you
Cool.
guys.
Have a good
All
one.
right. Bye bye.